Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. This is College Basketball Tuesday, February 20th. Jake, I feel like a broken record at this point of the season. I don't know if you felt that lately. I feel like we're going to be a broken record in this show. I feel like I'm a broken record with we're entering a Tuesday slate with a lot of interesting college basketball games. It's like cue up the clips from NCAA college football, which thankfully we're getting a new version of, which I unfortunately won't have time to play, but I am excited about nonetheless, as if
I can't wait for it.
I wish I could have the time to play it, but it seems to me I feel like if any of you can relate to this, you played the game so much. I played the game so much back in the day that I knew what the phrases. I feel like that's where we are. It's a good college basketball Tuesday slate. Look at the good games we've got. The two best games in the slate according to Sideline: UConn and Creighton, Baylor and BYU. We're going to cover them tonight. So I don't know, Jake. Hopefully you can carry the show because I don't want to say the same things 1,000 times. That's what it feels like I'm about to do. Here's your recap from Monday so far. We haven't finished Monday. The Iowa State-Houston game is early second half right now, so we are 1-1 so far on the free picks from yesterday. The A-grade totals 1-0 with one pending still. That's happening right now. That's looking very much just like the Iowa State game. As of right now, go either way. Plays of the day, both of them were winners. And so as we said yesterday, who the heck knows what happens with random variance? There's ups and downs. It's all about the big macro trend, and that's why I put the season numbers there to tell you the overall trend is still positive. It's just there's bumps every single day, ups and downs, and the ups are more fun than the downs, and Monday's so far seemingly okay. 2 games to go. We'll see how it plays out. Jake, anything else to mention before we hop right in?
No, I mean, I just, like you said, if this is repetitive, I would love to take this Monday and just repeat it over and over and over as is right now.
Touche. I think the hockey picks even won on Monday too. I think the A-grade sides lost. I think the A-grade totals, B-grade sides all won. So overall, good hockey day too. So that's always fun. We're gonna start off with Iowa and Michigan State, 7 p.m. Eastern. I don't know. We've covered a lot of Iowa games. They score points. They play fast. I mean, what else is there really to say about them? They tend to score more at home and give up more on the road, which every team does. I feel like people make a bigger deal about it with Iowa, but that's pretty common that teams do better at home. Michigan State, better defense and offense. They play slow. Absolutely. But, I mean, Iowa can get anybody up into a higher scoring game. We're going to take the over in this one, over 154. Not an A grade, though. We've talked a lot about these Iowa games. We loved the Iowa. I don't remember what. I think it was an A grade on Saturday, the Iowa-Wisconsin. We were like, hey, Wisconsin's got a really efficient offense at Iowa. And that game flew over in regulation. Then it went to overtime, which is even more ridiculous. But it was well over in regulation. And we were preaching it right then. Those are two teams that were the market just doesn't care that it's wrong. They're wrong by 8 points a game or so on these teams. And we're just you know what? We're going to make money off it. We don't know what's going to happen in any one game, but we keep doing it and we're winning 60 some odd % of those. That's why that was an A grade. This is a B- grade. Why is that? Michigan State's not Wisconsin, right? It's not quite the same level of confidence. We're going over a reasonably large number here in 154. So this is one we like, we don't love, not quite like the other one. We think it's still a smart pick and a really interesting game here because Iowa, you can always trust to score a bunch of points or give up a bunch of points, and sometimes both. But not quite as exciting of an over as we had on Saturday with Iowa, but still one that we think should be part of your portfolio. B- grade, we're actually going to risk a little bit less than the unit on this one because we always want to proportion our units out to where we have the largest edges. That's going to build our bankroll quicker in the long run. This is one that we're playing at this number, B- 154. I think this is really the lowest we're playing it at. I wouldn't really play it any higher, but if you can get a lower number than this, we start to like it more and more as that number drops. As always, shop around. Jake, what are your thoughts on this over?
My favorite parts of this over is Michigan State tends to play at the same kind of pace that their opponent wants to play. If you look at Penn State, that game got to 152 with a much less talented offense. that Penn State has over Iowa, and they played at a faster pace, faster than what the Michigan State tempo is. And then if you look at Maryland, they played incredibly slow because that's how Maryland wants to play. Michigan State, Michigan State is a chameleon when it comes to this. Their guards, Hogard and Walker, love to play fast. It's just not the greatest strategy for their team. So I think there'll be spurts in this game where it looks like you're playing at Iowa, where teams are going up and down, layups are happening, and a lot of easy points. And then there'll be a couple spurts where Michigan State really flexes their muscle on defense and slows it down. And I think we get enough of those fast spurts that Michigan State's offense can even carry us through the slow parts. That puts us way over this number.
Interestingly enough, there's obviously exceptions to every rule. They went under against Arizona, which seems impossible. So there was that one kind of counter to that. But on the other hand, you talk about Duke is a little bit more of a slow measure team. They went under with them. When they played Nebraska earlier, that's been a team that we've loved the overs as well. They went over with Nebraska. They played Baylor, went over with Baylor. Indiana State's a team we've liked the over on. That their offense was disrespected, at least in the before we got the conference play there. That game went over. Both Penn State games went over. Northwestern went over. So while there are some exceptions to that rule, I think in general your point states for the most part, when you look at it, Michigan State's mostly gone over with faster teams and mostly gone under with slower teams more times than not. And so that kind of, again, leans us towards the over. And like we said, Iowa, at home, they could score 100. On the road, they can give up 100. And maybe they'll crisscross that one day and for funsies. And it's not always that they play well at home and terrible on the road. But in general, they're just a team that has, as you can see on screen, great offense, terrible defense. We've talked about them a lot. So we're going to go over on this one. Again, 154 really is the highest we want to go on this, where we recommend it. It's tough. And I say that because, like, does that mean the 155 doesn't win or 153 wins or whatever? I don't know where the number's going to land. We're just saying that the higher you go, the more value you're losing. And at some point, you're just scaling back a little bit more as it goes higher. But if you can get a better number, scale it up, because we think there's a really good chance this game lands in the 150s. Maybe it gets in the 160s. And if so, the number doesn't matter. That's what we'd love to see. Unfortunately, we can't predict the future. We can just say on average, we think this number's a little bit too low. So we like this starting off our night with an over, which will take us to Creighton and UConn. And Jake, per your recommendation, I'm putting this slide first so that I don't forget about it. Here is what you get on Dub Club. If you're not with us yet already, you get this information for every single game. That picture at the top, it's got that and then every game listed with it. So I just screenshotted the one game, but there'll be a whole bunch of games in one table format. So on a night like Tuesday night, you just get one picture, one table. On a night like Saturday, on a day like Saturday, you get like 7 pictures because there's so many dang games. All the different team totals, probabilities, money line, what it should be, metrics, all sorts of good stuff there. If you are playing at a book that uses it, rotation number as well. It's that grade out number there. And then the cheat sheet with all the different metrics, grades, ratings, everything out in word fashion. Model says on average, this game would be 76-74 UConn over Creighton. This is a fantastic game. We talked about UConn, according to Sideline, being number 1 now in the country ever since sometime in the middle of last week. Start to look just, really most of the season clean being out was the exception to that, but otherwise looking just every bit as good as they were last year, with the way they started last year and the way they finished. At Creighton will be a tough contest for them. I don't know who wins. I think it's going to be a fascinating game. We're going to go over 145.5. Model says on average 150. Same B- grade. Neither one of these teams is playing overly fast, but they are both better on offense than defense. And at the top echelon of college basketball, we've preached it a lot. And that's why I started off saying I feel like I'm going to be a broken record. You've heard me say it before. The top offenses of college basketball are just better than the top defenses. And that's what we have here, except these aren't even the top defenses because they are both, again, stronger on offense than they are on defense. That should get us more likely towards the 150 number. The books are pricing like it'll be an average game. And while the pace will be a little bit slower, we expect high efficiencies from these offenses. Jake, tell us more.
Yeah, I think the first matchup is playing way too heavy in this, where it barely made it over 100. It was just a painful game to watch. But I think this game is going to fly over. Just like you said, these offenses are so much better than what the defenses are that they're going against. It's just unreal the kind of clips both these teams are playing at right now. Creighton, especially the last handful of games. because they've really turned it on. I mean, beating Xavier by 7 on the road is good. Absolutely demoralizing Georgetown and Butler in the last 2 games. They're on a roll right now. Baylor Shireman is just having double-double after double-double after double-double, it seems, right now. And Connecticut might be better than they were last year. This team might actually be better than the team that won the national championship. And
Crazy.
that's just
Which I think we
unreal.
mentioned that last year. I think we said at the time, we were like, and looking forward, we were like, this team's got like a lot of depth coming back. So I think we even talked about it last year that we were like, this team's really good and they're really scary for the future. And sure enough, here we are, and they're just as scary. It's unreal what the talent that they've got there, UConn.
No, I mean, everybody was building up that Marquette game, and you thought it was going to be a good game. Turns out it's a 30-point game. It's who I would not want to run into Connecticut right now, and I mean, that game goes over if Marquette shows up for one half. If they show up for one half, that game flies over. Connecticut did their part. I think we'll get a really good shot out of Creighton here, and this game will fly over. It should be just an incredible game to watch.
We're finally starting to see, and you kind of mentioned that, the Creighton that we expected all season, that the model was high on at the start of the season, and they just had a bunch of games early on. And it wasn't every game, but there were a non-trivial number of games where they just seemingly didn't show up. There's the Colorado State one was kind of the first one I think that jumped out to us, but they had 5 or 6 that they just didn't score in. They didn't seem like they could get anything going, and it was just kind of crazy. And this Creighton team's kind of starting to put it together now with the model bringing their offense back up into the top 10. You're starting to see what we thought from the beginning of the season, which was not that we thought they'd be the best team in the country, but that they could potentially be in that top tier of teams, that top 10, top 15 or whatever. And you're kind of seeing it now, whereas there were stretches early on in the season where it just did not look like that was the case. And so maybe they can give UConn a ball game. Maybe they can't. We don't really know. It'll be really interesting to find out. But what we do think is that on average, this game gets up over, and Jake, I put that slide first. I still botched all the ordering of the slides. Anyway, if you want to get all that information and join us on Double Club, you can get $5 off your first month by using the promo code there on the screen, the link in the show description, or take your phone out, scan that QR code, and join us over on Dub Club for a lot of great benefits. Jake, we always talk about shopping around. One of the other places you can do that here at BetUS. If you haven't got an account with them yet, you can sign up with the link in the show description. Get 125% first deposit bonus, a bunch of free bets, all sorts of benefits. Check them out if you haven't yet.
BetUS, America's favorite sports book, where you can bet on everything anytime. Sportsbook, live betting, and casino. To celebrate 30 years in business, we have the best bonuses in the industry. Get a 125% sign-up bonus and up to 30 risk-free bets. So what are you waiting for? Join now. BetUS, where the game begins.
And then that'll wrap up the free pick show with Baylor and BYU. Again, a broken record. We're going to go over again. These are 2 teams that we've liked the over on all season. Baylor's been such a fascinating team for the over. A lot of their overs have been fueled by their offensive efficiency and their defensive questionability. Their offense has been top 10 all season. Their defense has gotten stronger as the year has gone on. There was a time when the model had their defense ranked much closer to 100 than it is now. But you can see with both of these teams, they're both not bad on defense, but they're both just a lot better on offense, and it's not really close. That pace for Baylor has dropped massively throughout the season. There was a time early on in the season where they were top 100 in pace, and now they're down in almost to the bottom 100. It's continued to drop, and that's why there was that stretch we've talked about. If you've been with us before, I highlighted this. There was like 4-game stretch where the model just didn't touch the Baylor totals, was kind of like, hey, they're slowing down. We don't know what to make of it. And it just kind of ignored them for the most part. And then the books seemingly overreacted to that. And then since then, we've kind of been spot playing some of their overs in the right matchups. This is another good one, we think, to back their over in that. Yes, the pace has slowed down a lot, and the model is well aware of just how slow they are going, but thinks it's overreacting by dropping this number all the way down to the mid 150s. Model projects about 160. And look, the same story really holds true for all 3 of these games that we're covering on this show. The UConn game about 10 points lower because we just expect not a lot of pace there in that one. But the same concept just being all of these teams are good on offense. And while you do have a really good defense in Michigan State, and not to take anything away from UConn or Creighton's defense either, you've just got a lot of good offenses. You got good teams here playing on Tuesday night. Tuesday night seem to have a lot more points. It's because you're highlighting the best players in college basketball, and the best players in college basketball know how to score in this iteration of the game. And so, again, broken record here, but we're going to go over on this one. I always hesitate to do 3 of the same picks because sure enough, somebody's going to be like, well, every game isn't going to go over. And it's like, I know every game's not going to go over. We just need these 3 to go over. There will be 3 games that go over on Tuesday, folks. I promise you that. Of the however many 30 games there are, 3 of them will go over. So it is possible that these 3 do happen to go over. These are 3 of our stronger over picks. We do have another total to talk about on the extended cut. That's our total of the day. But in general here, Tuesdays, we tend to like more overs than unders, because we get just the top offenses, just kind of the way it goes. Jake, what do you like about this one specifically?
The fact that BYU's defense has just disappeared over the last handful of games. They no longer value playing on that end. I mean, they just gave up 93 to Oklahoma State, who hadn't scored that many points since November against New Orleans.
I was going to say since 2012, but sure, that works too.
Yeah, they put up 96 against New Orleans, who's nowhere near as talented as BYU. Yeah. Like, it doesn't make sense. BYU's defense is just on the struggle bus. I mean, Lord, they gave up 88 to UCF the game before this.
That seems impossible.
They are. Yeah, I didn't know there was enough time in a college basketball game for UCF to score that many, but apparently there is, because BYU allowed it, and Baylor should be able to take full advantage of that. The way they're shooting the ball as a team is just outrageous. Even with the slower pace, they're so efficient on offense. It's right up there with Creighton and Connecticut, how they do play a slower pace, but they're so efficient that their overs are worth looking at. And it seems like the books are taking pace too much into as a factor here and not looking at how efficient they are. BYU, even though their defense has disappeared, their offense has been around. They're still scoring quite a bit. Very good shooting team, good from the free throw line, good from everywhere. I just think their lack of defense is going to kill them here, and Baylor is going to absolutely take advantage of that. And I think the reason we see a lot of these overs on Tuesday is because you've got for the most part, more time to game plan for the Saturday games and the bigger games. And then that is such a quick turnaround back to Tuesday, because Sunday you got to give it a day off, then you really have Monday, and it's not enough time to get like practices in and things like that, because you don't want to tax your guys. So I think defenses lag a little bit on these Tuesdays, and overs are a good look.
Oh, interesting idea there. Oklahoma State scoring 93 just seems impossible in that last game. And I would be remiss if I did not point out that Oklahoma State shot 50% from 3, which is very unlike them. They also shot 30 times from inside the arc and made 20 of them. They shot two-thirds their shot. That's a good luck. Absolutely. I wouldn't, there's it's kind of hard to do, against a chair, right? But to some extent, you have to look at it, you have to say, maybe some of that's BYU giving too many really good looks, not getting hands in the face and forcing tough shots, forcing them, like what Virginia does really well. Virginia just puts a clinic on for the most part. The Monday night's game against Virginia, take a side. What they tend to do, what we saw on Saturday in a game that we kind of just said we don't know what will happen. Let's take the plus odds with Wake Forest, and it turned out to be that exact game, and Virginia won by 2. But watching that game, what I saw them do so well is that they forced Wake Forest to get no good looks until and then there's 2 seconds on the shot clock, and they're just throwing something up. And you have to look at BYU with the against Oklahoma State. And you're like, they clearly weren't doing that to be able to make that many of their shots. And then you look at it and you say, okay, well, but maybe it was just a little bit of just a great night for Oklahoma State. Everything's clicking. Like you said, you go back to the game before and they give up 88 to UCF. And it's like, it's another team that shouldn't be scoring that many points. There's a reason BYU's gone over in 7 of their last 9. Doesn't mean they go over here, right? Again, we do not have a crystal ball. We don't know exactly what will happen. Teams can get cold, et cetera, et cetera. But just in general, when you look at it, it's like this has got the recipe to be a very high-scoring game, that the pace won't be overly fast because Baylor's not quite that same team we saw in non-conference, but the offensive efficiencies here, both teams ought to be able to put up some points and score in a large percentage of their possessions, and that will allow us to get a lot of points. We think the fact that we're getting a number in the mid-50s offers some pretty incredible value. B+ grade, not quite to an A, almost to an A, B plus grade pick over 155.5. As the model thinks low 160s. Jake, that's our free show slate. There's the recap screen if you're with us on YouTube. We've got the outro slides coming with some just general reminders and practices of how we operate around these parts and principles we believe in. And then you and I are going to come back and talk more college basketball with the plays of the day. But before we take a short reprieve for those slides, do you have any parting words for our free pick viewers?
No, I mean, just sit back and enjoy just a loaded Tuesday. It's mainly the Big 12, but there's at least one good Big East game in there and half a good Big 10 game. But just enjoy this Big 12 conference day.
I mean, and they're giving us the preview with the Iowa State Houston game, right? So it's what we've kind of talked about the whole time is that the Big 12 just is a gauntlet of a conference and a lot of fun to watch. So it should be exciting as we get towards conference tournaments, because that should be you're going to see like a 7 versus a 6 in the Big 12 tournament game or whatever. It's be like 2 top 20 teams or something. It should be a lot of fun there. All right, everyone, thanks again for watching. Hopefully we see you on the other side of the music here. And if you are with us on Dub Club, you have that link to do so, and we will see you there.